Hey, this is Harry Guinness for Tuts Plus, and in this tutorial I'm joined by the editor of the photo and video section, Jackson. And Jackson has worked as a documentarian photographer. Is that a word, Jackson? I'm going to pretend it is.
Yeah, I've been a photographer and a documentary photographer and a lot of other things.
Uh,
Yeah, that's right.
so Jackson has a very different approach to photography than I do. So a while back we discussed the idea of me doing a shoot in a very film-like process. I wouldn't be allowed chimp or look at the LCD on the back of the camera because I've never actually shot film. I've only shot digital, and so this was going to be a very interesting experience for me. And then we'd go through the pictures together, and we'd pull out the ones that I liked and the ones that he liked, and we'd compare where our visions differed, and then look at how you do this, how you actually select from. Well, I've got 137 frames here, but you could have up to 2 or 3 thousand if you're doing a wedding, and even more. And
Right.
if you've got a second shooter with you, or you're shooting sports, you can have 6,000, 7,000 frames. And so working on a repeatable process that will help you identify the best images. So join us as we do just that.
Why don't you tell me about your shoot?
What was this is a big thing. It was a combination of several things. And it was very much getting a film workflow
Yeah.
with an editor and in the shoot. So Jackson didn't let me look at the pictures as I was taking them, which when you're working with a model and you're trying to explain a little more of this, a little out of this, is really awkward. So I was kind of cursing you out on the streets of Dublin.
Excellent.
So that was mildly irritating. I turned off the auto preview and turned the screen around. So like every time I'd be looking at this blank plastic thing, and I'd be like, "Well, that's no good to me." So anyway, I messaged Danny and I was like, "So Danny, how does this sound for a crazy idea for a shoot? I'm gonna take pictures of you, but we can't see them." So surprisingly, she was up for that.
Interesting.
So yeah. So we went out and we went for a walk around Dublin, a couple of the older streets of Dublin. I had my 650D with the wonderful 40mm 2.8 pancake, which
Yep.
is a really, really nice lens. I use it all the time. Like I don't even bring anything else because if I want to zoom, I just walk further in or work further away. And it's very, very flexible. So we went for a walk around with that. So I've got 20 shots here. About 14 of them are pics. 6 of them are indicative. So I've got the first few shots here. The first 4 shots there. None of them are actually pics, but I've just included them to show how the shoot developed. As I said, I worked with Danny once before, so we had a good rapport already. But it was still warming up into it, and it was just above freezing. So it was quite a cold day anyway. So warming up was both metaphorical and literal.
Fun.
Yeah. She was like, she said to me at one point, "It's like I'm gonna have to take off this coat." And I just looked at her and I was like, "Yeah, you are." And so she wasn't too appreciative of that.
So you're happy with the results?
I'm delighted with the results. Once we get further down, you'll see there's a couple of pictures that I think are going to go straight into my portfolio. And
Awesome.
Tuts Plus readers will likely see them cropping up again and again in tutorials. Anyone who's watched a few of my videos will be familiar with some of the pictures that I use again and again to indicate things like black and white because they've worked out well. So these will likely become some of those for color.
Yeah. So let's step through them. You know what? Actually, before we go to your picks, let's keep this experiment going, and we'll look at everything. So we'll come back to your picks at the end. Okay. So at this point, I think I'll take you through how I review images and the way I look at them. So it pops up with the grid view first of all when you import your pictures, but I try not to look at them in a grid, no matter how it's hard to do that, right? Because they're like, oh, I want to look at the whole shoot, and it's handy to do that for certain workflows, but for sort of shoot reviewing, it's best to look at things like really one image at a time. So I'm going to this obviously is an outtake, so
Yeah.
I'm going to go into this one, and then I'll just cycle through. I'll cycle through with my mouse. So let's see if I can. I'll bring things up, and as I go through, I'll give them a star if I think that something is good. So generally what I'll do is I'll go through the whole thing once, and if something is like really jumps out at me, I'll give it a star, and then I'll go through again and look at everything again. And if there's anything that jumps out at me the second time, I'll give it a star too.
Cool.
So
these are all the early ones where
yeah, you're sort of figuring out where you are.
Warming up, the bright background doesn't particularly work, I don't think, with these shoots. So just playing around with different locations.
I like this light in the background here. It's kind of neat. You're onto something.
Okay, well, we rapidly moved away from there, so we quickly got off whatever I was on.
Is this the same location? You're like somewhere nearby?
Yeah, this is
nice.
Sort of the old town in Dublin. It's a rundown area, or was until the 70s, when they did a big urban renewal project. So there's still a lot of old buildings there that are, very picturesque. So that's like Dublin Castle in the background there.
Yeah.
And you can see a Dublin bus there. So I had to time the image to make sure there wasn't these bright flashes of yellow in the back as they went by every so often.
Right. I like this kind of smirk that she's got sort of a knowing look. I don't know how else to say that.
Yeah, well, she does a lot of pin-up stuff.
Right.
So I think it comes from that.
Okay, so she's sort of been chin tucked right here, and it comes up. So that looks good. This one's nice.
I kept winding her up a little bit, so there's quite a few of her laughing and smiling. I don't know. That's me. I don't know what we're showing something there. So playing around with a few different poses.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. This one's kind of nice too.
Yeah, occasionally there's people in the background.
Actually, don't mind. Let's just put it in for a second and see what happens.
Another outtake. As you can see, there's a bit of hat hair going on. So slowly making her remove all the warm clothes. It was very cruel.
So it's interesting. She's modeling right now.
Yeah.
Right? You can you can see if I head back a little bit, I'm just going to step back.
This is me just teasing her taking pictures.
Yeah. She has this moment like here where she is present, and then she's back to modeling, which is interesting. So the trick is to sort of get something between that, right? Like where she's being real and she's presenting the look that you want at the same time.
Well, actually, we hit entirely on my favorite photo of the day, utterly accidentally, and it will come up in maybe 15, 20 frames. And I said something or whatever, and she put her hands on her hips in reaction, and I think it's a really great picture. So I'll flag that when we come to it.
Yeah, I think that kind of like happy accident is a really big part of having a successful shoot, right? You sort of plan for the shoot that you want, and then you get the shoot that you get.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means some things that are unplanned. That's sort of where the magic comes from.
Yeah, that's just blue steel. If you go back one. Oh, it's just like blue steel. Oh, I insisted on it, and it took a little while. So
that's funny.
So I've threatened to go and do a full retouch on that. So there's the coat gone, and this is starting to get into the ones I really like. That one I like.
Yeah, so there's a good portrait has a lot of triangles. Yeah. So there's a lot of triangles going on here. We've got this triangle and this sort of interior one and this one. inside the arm and then the arms themselves. So there's a lot of sort of like nice geometry going on there.
Yep.
So let's start that one.
That one I really like as well.
This one?
The following one, yeah.
Okay, so let's take them both.
Yeah. I prefer that one, but I'm not sure why.
So we take them both, and then we'll come back to them later and think about which one works.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And then the next frame is my absolute favorite of the day, I think. No, it's that one.
Yeah, so this one, so we got to run here. So I think the one after this one is good.
Yeah. Just that one. And then there's two more, so I think the next one as well.
Yeah.
That one's my absolute favorite of the day.
Yeah, nice. So we're really only looking for like one picture here, right? And because this is a portfolio shoot, you're working on creating a look and like having a feel. So we're not making the series. We're just looking for the picture of the day.
Yeah,
and it's nice. So some of the things that you've chosen to work here, like you're working in a place that's fairly bright, but you're in a controlled exterior environment. So you don't have any stray light coming at you.
Nope, I've got 4 high walls all around me. The lighting's very, very flat.
Yeah, and that's nice. It's nice and soft. It helps create that sort of luminescent skin, and that's a nice touch. This is cool.
Yeah, so then we went and
it's cute.
She warmed up, put the hood up.
I think the first one's the one. That's good. Her eyes are a little more open here, but the expression is better at the first one. I don't know. Maybe. Let's take them both and see.
Come back to them.
Yeah.
But there's some great catch lights as well from the reflection up behind me. Playing around with hood positioning.
This is interesting. I like this sort of swoopy shape.
Okay.
It's nice. Because everything else is really, hard. These hard lines. And then you got this soft. It's nice contrast.
Mm-hmm. I was really lucky with the coat she wore today because I really like the flat, neutral color palette of everything. Yeah. That it really blends in with the background. It's it's still distinct from the background.
Yeah.
But in terms of color palette, it fits in very nicely.
Yeah. So here, like the red of her lips really pop out because everything else is that sort of neutral tone. Okay. We switched locations.
Yeah. We went for a wander. We felt we'd maxed out there and there was cars trying to come by. So
right.
Problem with shooting on actual roads.
Yeah.
The lighting wasn't as flat here, so I wasn't really delighted with any of the shots I got there. This was a more open street.
Yeah.
Then we went up to a park. Played around.
Interesting. It's an interesting location.
Yeah, it's a little gazebo infested with pigeons, like most of Dublin.
I like the reflections here. So you have the repeated shape of the column in the ceiling. It's kind of nice. So I'm going to pick this one. What's going on here?
That's the last photo, I think.
Oh, that's it.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go back to the grid view.
Yeah.
And we'll filter out to the stars and back up to the top. Filter to stars. There we go. Perfect. 1 star and higher. So those are our ones I picked.
And the yellows are the ones 25. I picked.
That's right. So we concur about some things.
Some things, but not about others. That's interesting. But bear in mind, my yellows weren't just picks. Some of them were picks for posterity rather than
That's right.
actual picks.
Oops. No, I don't want to watch that. Shoot. Thanks, Harry. Let's edit that out if we can. What I want to do is close. There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So now what I'm going to do is I've gone back to my grid view. I'm going to take an overview of what I've got. So everything here has got 1 star. And I can see already that we're going to have to winnow this down a little bit. So so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at some things that are similar and try and pick one. So, and I'm also going to take a look and see at some things, ideas for next time as well, or like missed opportunities. So this one is interesting to me because there's this shape going on, all these patterns in the background. You have some dark zones, some light zones. I think this is like an interesting area. There's some potential here. Let's see. Yeah, anyway, there's something about that picture that I like. That's like just I can't quite put my finger on it.
Okay.
It's not, I don't think it's like a keeper for, in the end. It's not
No.
It's not the picture. Sorry. Can you zoom me into 100? There we go. Space bar. Okay.
Space bar is always the button.
All right. So yeah, there's something about this picture that I like. And, maybe if you play with it to bring out the tones in the jacket and her face, there's something there. So let's keep it for now.
Okay.
So I set that one to 2. And move on. This one you and I both picked, and I think this interesting photo, or did we?
I picked that one more for posterity than for anything else. Danny wasn't fully warmed up at this point.
Yeah.
This was just starting on the location. So contrasting this to the later ones, with the striking poses and things like that.
Yeah.
I think it's quite interesting. She's even got her handbag still on. I just pointed at my screen there, which obviously no one can see. But the brown strap on her right shoulder is her handbag.
So for that reason, I think let's keep it 2 because it's signifying of something. It's like an idea, right? It's a certain sort of pose. So these are 2 images that I'm thinking about. I don't know, something weird about this one. It's like weird in a good way. I don't know how to say that any other way. It's just got like something about the way her hair is, the handbag, it's off the cuff.
I won't tell her you said that, so.
Okay, good. So I think that one of that little run of 3.
Yeah.
I think the first one's the one. The camera angle is pointed down a little bit more. You sort of drifted up a little bit in these ones, and this is a better staging. Okay, so here we go on. Yeah, I still like this pose a lot, so I'm going to give that one 2. And I think I like it more than the ones that come after. This is a little more sort of open or direct, and even though her chin is higher in this one, it's sort of like more classically posed. This is a little more closed to me, and this is definitely more closed.
Yeah.
So of those 3, this is the one that I think is the keeper for me.
Okay.
And I put this in because I like the little guy in the background, and I like some environmental elements to sort of jump into photographs sometimes. Like sometimes it's a nice thing to have that sort of thing in the background that you wouldn't expect, but ultimately not a keeper. This one is interesting. I like the hand.
Yeah.
Right. And the hair, it's a really sort of off the cuff moment. You can't really, you can plan this, but I don't think you did.
No. This was where she was literally trying to fix her hair.
Yeah. And that's really nice. It's sort of casual and it's a nice photograph. It's maybe not the portrait that you were planning on making, but it's a nice photograph. So it's in.
It's not the portrait I wanted, it's the portrait I deserved.
Mm-hmm. And this one, so of the two, I think, this one is maybe framed a little better, but this is a better photograph. And in the end, probably, I think I'd end up cropping it maybe, 3/4 of the way.
Yeah, take it
something
tighter.
like that. Yeah, take it a little tighter. That's right. Okay, and this one. So we're like starting to get something new here. We're like different framing, going for the vertical, and we're getting into the idea. And yeah, it's a good photograph. Again, probably cropped a little bit.
Yeah, I'd take that. I'd go 8x10 with that. I think I don't really do the 4:3 verticals.
Yeah,
I find there's too much space in them, even for full body shots. There's just too much outside of it, so making it a bit more square.
Yeah. So just lop off the top really on that one.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. And did we give that one 2 stars? Yes, we did. And okay, so we're here. This one, you've given this one 5 stars, and I agree.
Yeah, she actually gave that one 5 stars herself. It's one of the few pictures of her smiling that she's been happy with. Okay,
so that actually brings up something really important, is that your subjects will look at the pictures differently than you will. And it's important to have in your mix some photographs that are going to make your models happy. And this is one of those pictures where, let's go back here. Other way. Yeah. It's one of those pictures where she's going to be really happy with the result. Maybe it doesn't end up in your portfolio. Maybe it's like not the keeper from the shoot, but it's something to give her where she's going to be like, I look great and happy and smiley and like, this is what she wants out of the portrait shoot. And it's important to keep everybody happy. So
it's definitely kept in.
Yeah. And so we have another run here of a few. 2.
So there's 2.
Which do you prefer?
I think the second one. I prefer the hand position.
Okay, so let's keep that in.
Then we got a little run of 3, I think.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite shot of the day.
Yeah, I think so too. So there's a little bum in the background there.
That's a bar there. So he was loading barrels and things like that in the background.
Yeah.
So there's he's in a few shots.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. I think this is the most sort of poised, present picture of that run. Yeah, it's good.
I like what her hair is doing in it as well.
Yeah.
Go back compared to the previous one. You know, where it's up and it's almost symmetrical.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it defines her shoulders. It looks good. Some wind going on.
Yeah, a little bit.
And this one. Keep. And again, I like these photographs. There's something really nice.
I was lucky to be working with such flat lighting that we could really actually use the hood. You know, you can see there's the shadow on her forehead, but given that she's got a massive hood up, it's pretty reasonable level of shadow.
So I know what I like about this photograph and why it's the first one and this one and not the second one. So here she's smiling with her eyes, right? And she's like, she has a little smile, but really the smile is all in the eyes. And in the second one, not so much.
Yeah.
And the other great thing about this photograph is this texture here. She's got, nice smooth skin, and then this sort of harsh or, at least repeated texture on the side. It's a nice contrast. So again, I think like crop it a little tighter.
Yep.
Right. So get right in there. And it's not a bad idea to shoot a little bit wide on portraits so that you can crop in later.
No, I always prefer to shoot a little bit wider. Even with 650D, I'm still getting 5,000 by 4,000 or something with these images. I'll tell you what exactly I'm getting. It's 5184 by 3456.
Yeah, pretty big.
That's billboard stuff. So to shoot a bit wider and then crop is far better to shoot nice and tight and then say, I wish I'd shot wider.
Exactly. All right, so we chose that one, and I think of those three, I think it's the one that we chose rather than this one. Maybe you could make the case for this one. It's a nice picture too.
I like both of them.
Yeah. So let's put that as 2. And I prefer it to this one. I marked this one because it's got this idea in the background.
Reflected texture.
Yeah, that's a nice idea. And are we at the end?
Yep.
We're at the end. Okay, so let's filter back down to 2 stars. And now how many do we have? 10. So that's a good manageable number. And one of those 10 is, or 2 of them at least, are like ones that we're not going to use. This one and this one are probably, they'll stay out of the final mix. So let's look through this again one more time. Nice. So now with that 10, I got like kind of a coherent feel for that shoot, like just a little shoot. But I kind of get it. I don't know if you agree, but I get an idea of what you're looking for here.
Yeah.
It's winter, but it's not totally cold. There's some warmth. You've got this warmth reflected in the windows and in the buildings.
Even the neutral color, it's brown, and it's a reasonably warm brown. It's not grey. The wall on the right is, but the left and above it.
I get the feeling that this is like one of those winter days where it's unseasonably warm, and you're like, wow, I got to take off my hat while I can. It's beautiful, and that's I don't know if it really was like that, but that's the feeling that I get looking at these, especially this one. I really like this gesture. It's a really nice gesture. So let's go back to the beginning.
That's the documentarian in you, because that's one I never even considered. I don't think.
Yeah,
that was gone on my first call.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good thing to point out, because one shoot can create a lot of different looks, right? Depending on how you cut it, it can do different things. So, and that's a good thing to have. Sometimes when you do a shoot, you're like looking for a specific image, and you're not looking for another kind. Like you're not looking for this kind of picture.
Yeah.
It ends up in the final edit anyways, because the editor or whoever's working with those pictures is like, oh, I could find a way to use that. It's if you're working for a magazine, it's maybe further down in the article, or like a little insert photo rather than the cover photo. So it's good to be able to see those pictures in your edit, so that when the opportunity comes up, you can be like, oh yeah, I have that picture, no problem. Yeah, so I think I agree with you.
That's the shot of the day for me.
Yeah, it's a great picture. So at this point, none of these photographs have really been super reworked. And so now that you have your keeper, which for me, then we give it 3 stars. Now that you have your keeper, now you can go to town on making it look right. That's sort of outside the confines of this session, but it's a great shot.
Yeah, I'm not delighted with that. I wish I was slightly more to the right, and so it was she was slightly more perfectly framed by the two buildings.
You know what? I don't mind. It's okay. I think that the thing that makes the framing as it is right now, like the reason why I would say that, like the reason why you might want her more to the right, is because this here is bright.
Yeah. And
so it's pulling us back, right? It's the lightest thing in the frame right now. And so because of that, it's jumping us to the back of the image. And if you take this area in the back and bring it more into line with this tone, not totally, but if you make this darker and make her brighter, she'll jump out more, and that receding effect will decrease.
Yeah.
So we're emphasizing her form and de-emphasizing this form in the back, ultimately. And so if you do that, you won't have that feeling of, oh, I wish I had stepped a little bit to the right.
Yeah. Well, I shot quite flat deliberately. It's the intention is to process the image. It was, it was shot with that in mind. So this is far from final. And I'm a big fan of dodging and burning, so that building is definitely not going to be that bright in the final shot.
Yeah. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at the whole shoot one more time, and I'll see what I can tell you about.
Click on the 1 star, I think.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry, it's been a while since I've been in Lightroom. Get out of here. All right, so this is the whole shoot. And if you don't mind, I'll just give you my impressions of sort of like the shooting style here. So looking at the whole shoot, we're sort of about the same distance from her most of the time.
Yep.
Right? You're, I don't know, maybe 8 feet, 6 feet?
Yeah, it was about 8 feet. It's a 40mm lens on a crop sensor camera. So it's 65 odd millimeters.
And that's actually, it's a really nice portrait lens. It's a little bit wider than most people shoot portraits with, but because of that, it gives a nice, like you can see a lot of the background. You're not totally isolating your subject.
Yeah, it's a conscious decision. I've got a 51.8 and I've used it for portraits and things like that, but you lose the sense of place. You could shoot a portrait anywhere with that and it will look so much the same, whereas with the 2.8 here, I'm able to get the background in, and Dublin is a really nice city in parts. You've got these cobblestone streets, so it would be criminal to just blow them out to nothing.
Agreed.
Especially if you were shooting with a 51.8, which is a fairly awful piece of glass compared to the 40-2.8.
Yeah. So my recommendation, just generally for shooting, is actually probably the opposite of what a lot of people would say. Most of the time the advice is to get closer, and that's pretty true. But with the lens that you've chosen for this shoot and the style of shoot that you're doing, my advice is actually to take a step back. And you can kind of see here, going back to that gives a sense of place. And we chose something similar to this, but you may even be good to sort of leave your model in the place and take a step back from time to time, just to give that sense of place and a variety to your shoot. Like we talked about earlier, you can crop in if you need to, but having that sort of even more environmental portrait is a good thing to have in the mix. So just something to think about.
Yeah, definitely.
But this is great. Well done.
Thank you.
I think you got a nice picture, and it looks really good. So thanks for letting me thanks for letting me look through all your stuff, and that was really fun.
Yeah.
Let's take a look again at your picks.
So these are the ones I pulled out. So yellow. I suppose I should explain my rationale for some of them. So the first one is included for posterity. This was the first proper picture of the day in a location that wasn't great, with Danny cold, and we'd only been hanging out for about 10 minutes at that point. And generally I like to hang out with a model for 20-25 minutes, get warmed up. Danny paid me the greatest compliment after the shoot, because I was organizing one for tomorrow. Actually, we're going to go do a bit of urban exploring, hopefully.
Right.
And she said, of course, shooting with you is just like hanging out, which is a really nice compliment to be paid.
Yeah.
By a model. It's this. It's not this sort of mad professional thing where she feels like a statue, essentially. That it's just, we go out, we have fun, and we end up getting good pictures. So this was her cold, and then warming up from there. So again, this was the location we settled on. I'm not sure why the light is so different in this one, because it was quite a cloudy day, so it may have just broken out from behind the sun to give the real warmth on her face in that one.
Well, just go back to that one for a second, because that is really nice lighting, and I think you can emulate this look with processing, with some corrections and adjustments.
Oh,
so it's a really nice picture.
Yeah. And again, if we hadn't got if we got that picture and hadn't got some of the later ones, I would be happy with that image. And then again, this is another image that I really quite like. I like the coy smile you were referring to earlier, and the turned shoulder. I know you like the open things, but I quite like the cold, or not the cold, the closed.
Yeah.
The turned shoulder. That was another pose I stumbled sort of on accidentally.
Yeah.
That I think I said something, and she was vaguely, jokingly threatening to walk away, not really threatening to walk away. Good rapport, remember? So she was vaguely threatening that, you know, and it struck me as a really nice pose. Because she's the kind of girl you would follow. You know, she's got that sort of the coy smile and the honest face and things like that. That it's like when she's looking back like that, it feels genuine.
Yeah.
So you know, I shot that a few times, and played around with it. Then went back to more front on stuff. This was again, I think, included more for posterity, with the removal of the hat and just getting into the shoot, and then of course blue steel, because it can't not be done. This was more of a threat than anything else, you know. So you're a model, are you? Zoolander's a model, great film. And so then once the jacket came off, we were really getting into the shoot. You know, once it was quite cold out, or cold for Dublin. You know, so it was about 3 degrees centigrade, which is in the 50s Fahrenheit.
I don't know. We're on Celsius too, so I don't know.
You're on Celsius too, so any Americans can write in the comments and correct us. It was cold, but it's above the freezing temperature of water, so it's you know, you can see your hands are actually red from the cold, but they're not blue from the cold. So you know, once the jacket came off, things it's not to say they got more professional or anything like that. You know, it was vaguely professional from the get-go, but it's that it was now time to get the pictures, because I didn't want to be in a position where Danny was standing around without a coat for 40 minutes in 3 degrees. You know, that's not something, a position I want to put the model in. And so, you know, in between these pictures, she's actually got her coat on. You know, although we went through these as several bursts, you know, there was breaks in the middle with the coat back on, because it was quite cold. So once we did that, it was really time to start getting the picture. And that focus on getting the picture, I think, is what led to, you know, again, this sort of pose, which you can see I cropped this one already to 8x10 to see how it looked without the top, because with the full top in, it's, you know, extending up, and you're losing so much of the model to neutral space that you don't really need. And again, so it's just honing in, again, trying the back turn. I really liked that image, less so than that one, or I like that one more so than that one for some reason. Nothing I can particularly put my finger on. And then this is really zoning in on the shot, and again, that's the one. And I knew once I'd taken that picture, even without being able to look at the back of the camera, thanks for that, Jackson. But, you know, I felt once I took that shot, and you can see how careful I was with framing, because I knew I wasn't able to look, that her hand that it's cropped, you know, above the knees, below the hip. It's not cropped at a joint. It's not cropped anywhere super awkward, because I know almost every photographer's been in that horrible position where a wonderful shot's been ruined because you cropped at the fingers. And you know, it instantly takes 10% off a photo.
I'm glad you said that you knew this was the shot looking at it through the viewfinder when you took it. Is I think that's really an important skill, is being able to see the photograph as it's happening, rather than treating the camera as a sort of a television screen that you're consulting after the fact, and jumping in and jumping out and jumping in and jumping out. So that's cool. That's really why I asked you to not look at the screen, is so that you would have that moment where you're like, oh, I just saw it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so once I got that picture, we sort of moved on from that location. You know, we put the jacket back on, and she put the hood up because she was cold, and I was like, I like that. So it took
Yeah.
6, 8 pictures
Yeah.
with the hood up. But the reason she had her jacket back on was because, as far as I was concerned, I had the picture.
Yeah.
Anything that came after was, purely optional. And we ended up going off for another 40 minutes because neither of us needed to get a train in a hurry. But I
Yeah.
could have quite happily packed up, after this point. What time was this? This was 20 past 11.
Yeah.
See the top left. So, this is 4 minutes later. And again, 7 minutes later. So we left the location maybe 5 minutes after that. But then this is another 40 minutes later. We walked for half an hour up to the park. There wasn't much on the way. I had a vague plan to see about getting moving leaves in the background. Because with a 40mm lens, I could shoot at 1/50th.
Yeah.
And hold it, and it was very, very windy. But it didn't pan out. There wasn't great lighting in the park because it was much harsher. The sun was sun was out. You can see the shadows in the background. She's in the shade of a tree, and that's the only way that the lighting's in any way flat in her face.
Yeah, you're at about noon right now, so the light is fairly high in the sky.
Yeah, or as high as it gets at 55 degrees north in December or January. But
exactly.
Very, very angular light. So there was nothing really there. And then again, still noon, playing around. But the shot I'd taken the shot half an hour ago, and so these were all just optional extras. And I quite like these 3 images. Again, she's smiling in this one, and it's a genuine smile. That's quite a nice shot of her smiling. She's quite self-conscious about her smile, I think. In that she's as a model, she hates every picture that's ever been taken of her.
Right.
There is always a problem. They can't look at a picture without going, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have done this, I should have done that. And one of the things she's always been mentioning when doing it is smiling, that she doesn't she's not a fan of the photos of her smiling, but this is a really nice one of her smiling. So I'll probably send it over to her, touch it up, send it over to her. Because again, as you were saying, that to take pictures that please the model as much as please you is always a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it feeds that relationship like you described earlier, where you said, she feels comfortable with you, and returning something that, says thank you and good job is important.
Yeah. Well, I have 2 more shoots planned with Danny now in the next one tomorrow now, and then one when it gets a little bit warmer, probably, because it will involve time spent outdoors. It's going to be a composite. But building these sort of relationships is great, because I've got a great model who's comfortable to work with me, and enjoys it and is happy to do it, and is, clearly capable of being in great pictures and working well.
Yeah.
So, it's good position to be in. And I think that's, there's one more where she's not smiling, pouting a little bit. Mm-hmm. And that's, that's the ones I pulled out of the shoot. But they're a little different to your choices, which is interesting. I think was sort of the point of this.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. So let's recap some of the things that we talked about. So we went through the process of evaluating a whole take from the start. So we looked at each image full screen without looking at the take as a whole, so that we could have that experience of the reveal, which is something that I learned from shooting film, is that you get your print back and you look at each print one by one. And then afterward, you spread them out on the table. So that's the idea, that we're evaluating each image for what it is.
Yeah.
And we went through and we gave everything 1 star that we thought could possibly be a keeper. Then we filtered down to everything with 1 star, and we gave everything that would make the cut again, we gave it 2 stars. So we had a second group, and that was a smaller group. of 10. And then we went through that 10 and we decided which one was the final image. And we only needed one image for this shoot. And so we selected the final image and gave it 3 stars.
And that was this image here. Probably worth the
That's
money.
right. Yeah. And then we thought about, okay, this is our image. What do we need to do to get this image to where we want it to be? We did a little bit of pre-visualization. We talked about how the background needs to be darkened a little bit and the foreground needs to be lightened a little bit to reduce the feeling of perspective, drawing us back into the photograph, and lightening to sort of make her pop out a little bit more. So we thought about what are the corrections that we needed to make. We also looked at a previous image for some color reference of how we could change the color of this photograph to emphasize the warmth of this day, even though we're in a cool environment.
Yep.
So those are the next steps. The next thing is, now that we've picked our image, the next thing is to take that image, correct it, adjust it, and then do any sort of final retouching that we need to do on it.
Yeah, this is really only the first step of the workflow.
Yeah, but that was a fairly quick edit. We had a good take. I don't know how many pictures there were. 100?
137.
137 pictures, and we went from 137 pictures down to 1 in a really quick way. So it took us, 15 minutes? And we talked during it. So if you're doing it without talking to your editor, it's going to be even faster. So that's the idea, is to get from a big take down to the select in a quick and repeatable way. And that's what we did. And that's the idea. So thanks, Harry.
Thank you, Jackson, for your help with this. And thanks for validating my choice of photograph. It would have been very awkward if you'd come along and said, I don't like that one at all.
No way. I'm looking forward to seeing this one in your portfolio.
I'd say. So if anyone who's watched this wants to see the final result, they should check out the post on Tuts Plus that will be below this video. And we'll see a written discussion of some of the things we've touched on here.
Perfect. Thanks, Harry.
Thanks, Jackson.
Talk to you next time.
Bye.